Thank you so much, Christy. I am absolutely thrilled to be here because, like many of you, I have been home quite a bit and I have wonderful children. And I'm so excited that we've been together for weeks and weeks and weeks. Everybody, I'm sure, can relate. I have 15-year-old twins at home, and my husband, Jordy, usually joins on these things, but he is a paramedic and he is working tonight. And Jordy's also part of EMAT, which is the Emergency Medical Assistance Team. It's the Ontario response team, respond to any crisis. And on February 2nd, he was called to say, you need to come to Trenton. You know, there was this thing, this virus was happening in China over there. It was very distant, and they were going to be part of the team that was the Canadians were coming home, right? So that this virus didn't come to Canada. So he was gone for 5 weeks, and then the cruise ships came, and suddenly it seemed like, well, wait a minute. This was supposed to be something that was over in China. Oh, and now it's here. All right, well, this will probably, be resolved in a few weeks. And here we are. Here we are still in the midst of this pandemic, which has become a marathon. And I actually had to Google, marathon's 42 kilometers. And I don't remember signing up for this marathon at all, but here we are. And we don't really have any idea what kilometer we're at, and it's been a very challenging time, as I'm sure everyone. Does anybody feel like this isn't challenging? Just raise your hand, because if you do, then you can go ahead and share all your wisdom, because I've had a hard time. This has been very challenging. And when you think of things being canceled, my goodness, I think I've had 9 or 10 or 11 wonderful events that I was looking so forward to canceled. And as wonderful as this is, I am one of those huggers. I want to hug everyone. So I'm virtually hugging you, but it's not quite the same. As I mentioned, we have 15-year-old twins. They've been home. They haven't been able to go to school, be with their friends. Summer camp was their saving grace, right? Okay, everything else is canceled, but we can still hold on to being able to go to summer camp. And then that happened. No summer camp. This was a very special year for them. 10 years, they were going to get this carved eagle and start their leadership. So big grief everywhere. And as I think of my experience in my 27-year nursing career, it was interesting. So many times I felt like I should be an expert in grief, right? As we feel all healthcare professionals should be. And my many years in chemotherapy and hospice and palliative care, emergency intensive care, I realized that I was just suffering excessively along with everyone else. I didn't empower people in grief because I didn't have coping skills and strategies myself. I hadn't created a soft landing for myself. I started asking other healthcare professionals, like, are we well prepared for grief personally and professionally? And they kind of said, oh no, we're terrible at it. And off they went, and no one really wanted to talk about it. So I was sharing with Catherine and Chrissy earlier, I became very anxious, and I just said, you know what, we need to do this differently. We need to start having conversations. We don't talk about grief before it arrives. We don't have coping skills and strategies. I need to do something. And I was sitting in this very chair. And as many of us have had life-changing moments, there was a pop-up on Facebook, how to write a best-selling book. And I just went, oh my gosh, that's it. I'm going to leave my 27-year nursing career and write a book. Isn't that, I looked at my husband, isn't that fantastic? And his face was like, the deer in the headlights, the big eyes, like, trying to be supportive. Yeah, that's great, Yvonne. It's just like, there's one, like, you don't write. I said, I know, isn't it fantastic? So here we are, 6 years later. I wrote my book. I became a speaker. It's just been like this whirlwind of one thing after the other, totally leaping out of my comfort zone. And why I can do what I do is because here I am in front of you saying, I am my flawed, imperfect self. I am not a grief expert. I am learning as I go along, but I'm smart enough to ask a whole lot of people how people who have been in the deep trenches of grief and found joy in their lives again, professionals and patients and families. And so my message is the culmination of my 27 years of nursing and all the people that I have had the privilege of speaking to, interviewing, taking care of. And I am just learning as I go along, because that's what this life is all about. So when this pandemic became very real and it wasn't a quick sprint, it was a marathon, I decided, okay, what are things that are helping me through? And so I wrote these 10 tips on navigating through grief or challenging times, and I posted them, and suddenly someone said, oh, can I post that? Can I post that? I'd like to share this. And so many people wanted to share, because we're all looking for resources, right? And again, I'm always learning as I go along. So feel free to give me any tips that I haven't shared after we're done, and I'll keep sharing them. See, that's the thing. That's how I'm just the messenger, right? And I just keep connecting with people. So I'll share these tips that have helped me, and people have said that it's helped them along. And maybe I'll just go through them, and then that will leave time sort of after, so that we can have a conversation, have questions, and just have a discussion. How does that sound? Does that sound okay? Does anybody know how to do the thumbs up reaction thing? You know, you press the thumbs up, or yeah, okay, you can give me, there you go, you got it, Lynette. Give me the thumbs up. Okay, so takeaway number one, and I believe this is where it has to start. Acknowledge and allow all feelings, yours and the feelings of those around you, because it is certainly understandable to be struggling at this time, right? I think that's where it kind of has to start. Acknowledge and allow your feelings. Heard so many people feeling like, they have to be strong for everyone and they have to hold it together for everyone. You can ask my children. I'm not trying to be strong for them. I grieve with them. And let them know I'm struggling too. And sometimes my struggle might be some tears. Sometimes it's irritability. They will also attest to that. and I find myself, right? I have less tolerance, and I really keep checking in, because I understand there's so many layers of things going on, right? We have this pandemic that is kind of overshadowing. And then we have other issues going on in the world, because just because there is a global pandemic doesn't mean the rest of life's challenges stop, right? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had enough to deal with and just this thing was going on, but the rest of life keeps going on, right? All the things that make our heart ache. When I think of grief, people often feel like it's just something we experience at end of life, right? And what I see grief as is our mental, physical, and emotional reactions to loss, transition, and change. Well, we have all of that going on all at the same time. So when people say, I'm really struggling with that, I feel like, yeah, that would be a normal reaction to everything going on. Hello, Mina. How are you? Nice to see you. So acknowledge and allow all your feelings. You don't have to be strong for everyone. You don't have to have the answers. Let's just figure them out together. Number two, I say, in this pandemic and everything else that is going on in this world, be informed, but not obsessed. Be informed, but not obsessed. And by the way, I'm happy to send you the 10 tips. If you follow us, you can get them. I'm happy to email you the 10 tips, but be informed, but not obsessed. And I think that I've seen many people, right? They're glued to the internet, and they're looking at every story, and they're inundated, and they go to bed and that's all they hear. is everything, all the struggles that are going on. And then they wonder why their anxiety is this high. This is already challenging enough. And I believe that it is essential to be informed. So I choose a very reliable source. I listen to our Prime Minister. I figure he should know what's going on. And then that's all, right? As far as the pandemic and what I need to do. And our Premier every now and again. I don't need to hear every scary statistic. I don't need to be inundated with everything because it is just overwhelming, right? Some people say I can't function. I say, well, yeah, I guess not. You've been watching this for 10 hours. So I think it's really important to be informed, but not obsessed. And here's the other fact, the elephant in the room. See, the elephant even has a mask on. We're tired and exhausted and overwhelmed by all of this, right? This has been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. Oh my goodness, we've had enough. And I get that too. And I think that's something that we need to really acknowledge. Take some grief breaks. Take some pauses in all of this. Some people say, I don't have time to take a break. I don't have time. And I say, well, what can you do to change that? Even sometimes if you have 10 minutes and you go outside in nature, if you take that pause that you need just for a moment, because there is so much. There are layers and layers and layers of things going on. We'll talk about that after. We'll continue with the COVID-19 because number 3, follow the guidelines stringently. Again, people are like, I am tired of washing my hands and I'm tired of, I don't want to wear a mask. And I saw people gathering in at a park and they weren't socially distancing. I'm angry. And it's okay to be angry. And it's okay to be tired of this. My hands are kind of raw. These are not, I will never be a hand model after these weeks. But we went out and said, okay, I'm gonna take a breath and let's do what we can do. And we went to our friend's house who made us all these kooky masks. Some have roosters on them, some have little foxes on them. Yeah, the elephant has foxes on it. We just said, okay, make us some masks and I'm gonna wear them when I go to the store because here's the thing. If I happen to be positive for COVID-19 and I went to a store and I realized that I was responsible for giving it to someone else, I would be devastated. So I don't want to take that chance. And if there's people over here that aren't doing what they're supposed to do, I will certainly call them on it. I've done that. Hello, physical distancing. I will call them on it. I can't control the world, but I can control me. And my children are very diligent. Mom, did you wash your hands? Yes, I washed my hands. I washed my hands 50 times, but thank you for reminding me. Yes, again, it's getting old. Some people are not complying. I'm going to do what I can do so that I know that I'm doing my very best. And of course, number 4, I say, we have to understand is what we are experiencing is global grief, right? This is grief. We are grieving so many things and grief manifests itself in so many different ways. One thing that people really don't see in really deep grief is that anger is that's a part of grief. Anger or just feeling just very, very deeply sad. Yes, and people crying, we recognize that. But anger, irritability, confusion, having trouble focusing, having trouble being productive, those are all parts of grief as well. We just don't recognize them, right? Because we don't even, I think for the most part, we don't even recognize how we actually grieve ourselves. I didn't, until 27 years of nursing, I didn't really ever ask myself that question. And when I stopped and thought, how does grief affect me? And I remember, one of the many times my life fell apart and my heart was broken in a million pieces, which, it actually has this miraculous, it heals. It's battered and scarred and never the same, but it heals. But I realized when I am grieving, I get chest pain. It was so intense once I kind of stopped and said, well, I'm either really upset and grieving or I'm having a heart attack. That's how intense it was. I actually took a couple of baby aspirin just in case. And I went and had an ECG and everything. And I said, I'm either having a heart attack or I'm having a really hard time. And I realized this is my body saying to me, okay, you need to sit, allow your feelings, sit with them, take some deep breaths. You are grieving. And when I do that, and it's not fun to feel our deep grief and those hard feelings, is it? When it has its grips in you, it loosens as you allow it, right? You have to feel your feelings to diffuse them. Easier said than done, absolutely. So much better to be excessively busy, stuff them away, pretend they're not there. As a nurse for many years, I went steady with red wine. I'm not gonna lie, after a patient died or there was tremendous grief or a trauma, I call my husband and he would get the the hysteria on the phone and he would know to open the wine. And I would just have a couple of glasses of wine and numb my pain. And now when I'm saying, okay, I need to walk my talk. I need to feel if I'm going to tell other people that they need to feel their feelings to move through them, I need to walk my talk. And so red wine and I broke up in 2015. And now when I'm treating myself, I have a near beer. My children will tease me on a Tuesday night. Whoa, Mom, that's your second near beer. I don't know, you're getting a little out of control. I need to feel my feelings and I listen to my body, right? If you start, recognize how grief affects you. And when you feel those feelings, it's like, okay, I need to pause and I need to take good care of myself and I need to feel my feelings. It can affect us in so many different ways. Number 5, reframing the call to action. I still feel that this is so important. We do not need to socially distance ourselves. We need to physically distance ourselves. And I hear people saying, I am zoomed out. I am tired of Zoom calls. I want to see people. And yes, I get that as well. We need to acknowledge and allow that, feel our feelings, and grieve what we can't do. And then now, okay, big breath. What can we do? What can we do? And I have been so creative because I have this ADHD brain, so it spins all the time. So I'm going to take advantage of it. And I'm thinking always of ways that we can connect, in ways that I can reach out. I am reaching out to people I haven't seen or spoken to in many years. I am calling out to my neighbor across the street. Hi, how are you? And I'm doing all the things. Yes, I wish that I could be in a room with all of you. And I wish that we could be in person. Yes, I can grieve that. And now what can we do? Because we always have a choice. We don't always have the choice we wish we had. Right? And those are two very different things. We always have a choice. We don't always have the choice we wish we had. But I say we can socially connect in so many different ways. I shared today also that a really fun for me is when I was writing my book, I got a quote from Patch Adams. Anybody know who Patch Adams is? Just raise your hand, right? Patch Adams. There was a movie, Robin Williams, who lives in my heart, played Patch. And Patch is a real doctor who does clowning around the world. And anytime that you write a letter to Patch, he will write you back. He does not email. And so I have a quote in my book from Patch, and I had sent him a letter in my book, and he sent me a card back. And so the other day I was just having a little pity party, because you're allowed to have those too. You just don't want it to be, 3 weeks. Mine was a few hours. I'm like, I'm having a little pity party today. I'm feeling pretty sad. And I thought, what can I do? After I feel my feelings, then I'm like, I want to move through my feelings. What can I do? And so I wrote a letter to Patch Adams, and he wrote me back. And I mean, just looking in my mailbox and seeing an envelope from Patch Adams, I mean, it's just such an extraordinary thing. And so I am really, after these weeks and weeks and weeks of finding ways to connect and help my children through this, I'm needing to, okay, in that marathon, take a drink of water, pull up my socks, wring out my shirt, and let's just keep going. And number 6 is catch your breath. Haven't we become a society where so many people are just on this treadmill, right? Do you ever call someone and you say, hi, how are you? Oh, I'm so busy. Oh gosh, I'm so busy. Does anybody, right? That's everyone's standard. Oh, I'm so busy. I started asking people, well, first of all, I said, oh, well, here's another question. Are you happy? What am I what? I don't have time to think. Why are you asking me that? That's such a weird question. I said, oh, well, I feel like that's so sad that that's such a weird question, because I feel like we all deserve happiness and it's our responsibility, and I want to be a happy person. Are you happy? You keep talking about how busy you are, but are you happy? Well, I don't know. I say, oh, well, what could you do to change that? And I feel like that's a question we should ask ourselves regularly. Don't you agree? I mean, our own happiness. I mean, we may come back, but I mean, as far as I know, we have one lifetime, and yeah, I mean, we may come back, but I mean, this one right now, I want to live my life fully. I want to be present. I want to say, yes, heck yes, I'm happy. Not every moment. Those people, oh my God, I'm the happiest person in the world. That's all they ever, like, come on, really? Are you? No. But somewhere in between, because every time I ask people, the most I ever hear is, oh, I'm so busy. So, in this pause, right, there are many things canceled, and we're not on the road all the time. And it's a different story for everyone. And I will acknowledge right now that we are all in the same storm, but we are not in the same boat, right? So for some people, this experience, this pandemic, COVID-19, it has really disrupted their lives at a deep, deep level. And I feel for people who are financially really absolutely stressed. I feel for people who have had loved ones who are sick or who have died. My goodness, that is just, my heart goes out to everyone. But I am talking about most of us, the many of us who are just forced to take this pause, right? And I think that in this pause, there's such tremendous opportunity. There's opportunity for conversations, for meaningful conversations. That you have a captive audience. I have had more conversations with my children, and I know they're 15. We wouldn't have had all these conversations. They would have been with their friends playing volleyball. That's right. So I have taken this time to engage as much as possible. And I mean, then they catch on, and then they say, Mom, I can't have another spirit conversation. It's just like, okay, we're done here. We can go watch something silly. But it really is a time, for many of us, that we can just pause and before, as the world gets churning and moving forward more and more, maybe we could stop to say, that was too much, and maybe make some adjustments. And I think that checking in with ourselves, and that, am I happy? I think that needs to be more part of our daily conversations. checking in with ourselves. If in this pause you think of your, quote unquote, old normal life as, oh my gosh, that is just so overwhelming. I just don't even, that was just way too much. Or, you have children or family, friends that you think this pause is an opportunity for them, have those conversations. Why not? Say, you know what, isn't it wonderful that we've actually had meals together, played cards together, whatever we've done. This can be an opportunity. And again, in the first several weeks, we're saying, okay, this is going to be over soon. This is going to be over soon. And we're not sure where we are. Once again, where is it? Elephant in the room right over there. We're not sure how far we are. So let's make the most of this pause. Let's catch our breath. Make checking in with yourself frequently a part of your routine. Checking in mentally, physically, and emotionally. The physical part, right? Like but we do forget. Am I sleeping well? Am I eating well? Am I getting fresh air? Am I exercising? That stuff. But right now, because this has been such a long journey, that mental and emotional checking in is so critical. And here's the thing, and here's such a wonderful thing about that happiness, is that we are not in charge of anyone else's happiness. You cannot make your spouse happy. You cannot make your children happy. Isn't it such a relief to take that pressure off yourself? That is their responsibility. And that you can give someone the world. You can hand it over to them on a silver platter, give them everything that you could possibly think of, and you can't make them happy. So, the greatest thing that you can do is be the very best version of you and be that happy person. You know what? I've done my work. I'm checking in with myself and I'm being as happy as I can be. And that is a great living by example, right? You can try all you want to force someone to be happy. Good luck. I've given you everything. You should be happy. It's not going to work. So just give yourself a break on that. Number 7, spring clean. And I love people like, oh my God, what do you mean spring clean? I don't want to spring clean. Again, the opportunity to declutter mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. Whatever is not serving you, right? Get rid of the stuff that is weighing you down. And again, that's just such a wonderful part of that checking in, right? This is I actually had to physically spring clean some stuff. It's this closet, and has anyone done that? There's a thing, a drawer, a something that's been driving you crazy for months. And it would have been so much easier, right? To just clean it, right? Or paint it, or cut the lawn, or whatever. I started to do those things, and not in an overwhelming way, but in a, this room has been the most disgusting. When we moved in here, the person had painted one wall mint green, one wall yellow, and the other wall half white, half yellow. I don't know exactly what that was all about. It's been bothering me for 6 years. That's too long, right? Really, isn't that too long? Yes, Jane, you can laugh at me because that was too long. And so we just said, you know what, kids, we ordered in some paint, curbside pickup, and we painted this. 6 years? That's too long. It looks amazing. How ridiculous that we waited so long. So that spring cleaning, again, check in. What are those little things that are just sort of chipping away either at your happiness or your energy that you could change? And again, here's your opportunity. Just do it. Don't look at that mint green and yellow wall for 6 years. That's madness. So I one project after the other. And then I pause when you know what, I need a break from projects, right? Like I keep checking in. No, I'm good. I need a break from projects. And then I get back to it. And when I feel really overwhelmed or sad, what do I need? What am I missing right now? And another thing that I've done for myself is no matter what, no matter when, I don't care if I'm driving, I don't care what I'm doing. I just stop. And nature's my thing. Nature is the thing that I can always turn to. So when I'm just feeling kind of lost, just go stare at trees or walk in a garden, walk outside bare feet. We need something, right? That's something that we can turn to. For me, it's nature. And if you have something, I call it in my presentations, I call it having your post. That's something that you can turn to in times of despair that can be there for you no matter what, no matter when. So for some people, it's their religion, a spirituality, yoga, meditation, nature, something. When you're just kind of not sure how you're feeling, why you're feeling, go to your post. And if you don't have a post, figure out what that post could be. And I'll tell you, nature is a great one, because even if it's one tree or a picture or something, you can visualize and you can find nature everywhere. And number 8 is, kind of goes along with it, but fill your life with happy. Fill your life with happy. And it's a little more than just checking in. Fill your life with happy. And when you go back and think of that, catching your breath and pausing and having those meaningful conversations, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, spring cleaning. Fill your life with happy and continue to ask the question, am I happy? And has anyone ever seen, I have to show you this book. Let me see. Have you filled a bucket today? A guide to daily happiness for kids. Has anyone seen this book before? So this is a wonderful book that Carol McLeod talks about, or she wrote. And I actually met her, and she says, we all walk around with an invisible bucket. And when we have self-confidence and we fill our own bucket, and when we have supportive people around, we have a full bucket. And there are so many people, walking around, and they have an empty bucket. They either maybe don't have love in their lives, they have, a sad home life, maybe they're hungry, right? And they have an empty bucket. And when you run into these people and they're irritable and angry and you don't really know how to take them, I've taught this to my kids, and after this, they say, what do you think could be going on? I know, Mom, they could have an empty bucket. And again, there are so many things that we can do to fill our own bucket and to fill other people's bucket. So what I have done, because I also know when I'm grieving, besides chest pain, I can't think. It's like my brain is so clouded. So I created, and I encourage everyone to create, a self-care toolbox, right? A self-care toolbox. Because here's the thing, is that we all grieve differently, right? It affects us all differently, and it can affect us in different ways and different days. And different things help us to feel better. So I know that I need to connect to nature. I know that I want to go to my self-care toolbox, and in there, well, I actually have a branch in my self-care toolbox to remind me to go outside in nature. I have many trinkets that help me to feel better, because as much as I want to acknowledge and allow my feelings of grief, I also want things to help me move through them. So I have little trinkets, like this is a beautiful hat a chemotherapy patient knit for me one year. And this is when I went to Disneyland with my son when I was a single parent, and that was a great trip. This is like 20 years old, but it reminds me, when this moment right now, this temporary moment is overwhelming and sad, I want to remember those wonderful times. And in here I have names of counselors, I have books, I have movies that will help me feel better to watch. And of course I have, everybody here is old enough to know what this big box is, right? This is a VHS, right? The millennials are like, what is that really big box? VHS, yes, we still have a VCR, no judgment. I turned to my movie Patch, and if you haven't seen it, you have to see it. And the other thing that I have in my self-care toolbox is a tambourine. My tambourine reminds me that I am in charge of making my own music. I am in charge of my own coping skills and strategies. And when I think of my tambourine, there's many times that I have played the tambourine on stage with bands, and like never invited. Like I would see them, and I would be dancing, having a good time, and I would see a tambourine on the stage, and I would grab it and start playing it, and they're like, oh God, there's Yvonne on the stage again. And one time this one band caught on to me, so they hid their tambourine, like, oh, sorry, we don't have one. I went, that's okay, I brought my own. But these stories make me smile, right? And so I encourage everyone to create a self-care toolbox. And when you do, what you also see, and if you encourage your children, I think my children have a self-care toolbox, Jordy does, and they're so different. And what that helps us to understand is how uniquely we grieve and how different things will help people feel better, right? There is no right or wrong with grieving. I say, as long as you're not hurting yourself or someone else, right? There's no, like, I had a friend whose son died, and he called me, and he's like, I've been doing this grieving thing for a while now. Can you let me know when I'm going to be done? It's like, oh yes, okay. So how many days has it been? Yes, you will be done tomorrow at 12:30. It doesn't work like that, does it? You don't just grieve and then it's over. You kind of build your new life around it, and in particular in this time, because this is it's like chronic grief, right? It's like, or perpetual, it's going on, and we're dealing with many other things at the same time, many things that we're grieving, maybe divorce, diagnosis, job loss, mental health issues, and of course, many things have happened along with COVID-19. There were shootings in Nova Scotia. There were people who the snowbirds, Captain Jennifer, who died, and just these other tremendous grief. And now with everything that occurred in the United States around George Floyd's murder, and everything that went from there. And I have to say that in everything that was going on, it's like we've already been dealing with so much, right? Our reserve is just kind of, okay, and then this happened. And it for a few days, it just flattened me. I just felt just so paralyzed with grief and not knowing. And I had to sit with those really awful, hard feelings, and it was just so heavy here, and for so many, of course. And I just watched, and my sister lives in La Mesa, San Diego, right, like San Diego suburb, and there were protesters. You just know that there's so much grief and anger for people to turn to that, and a beautiful village like where we had visited, there was a lot of destruction, and my sister and her family went there to help clean up. And so, it's not way over there, and a lot of Canadians, because we're so nice and we're so polite and we're so, we really are great. But this racism is everywhere. It is also in Canada, and so after a few days of really heavy grief, and it hasn't left, but I acknowledge and I allowed my feelings, and then I got to the now what point, right? Now what? And so I have been empowering myself. I'm a voice. I'm asking important questions. What can I do to fuel the positive and help move forward and help heal? Right? Because that is also the choice we have. I'm not going to talk about all the riots and all that. What can we do to educate ourselves and heal? And I've heard Catherine and Chris, we were talking, and there are protests even in Canada and in Calgary to say, this is, anti-Black racism is not acceptable. And so I'm proud of all of us being a voice. And so, here we are in the midst of a pandemic, and then there's other tragedies, and then this, horrific scene, and then other things that are going on in our whole lives, in our own lives, right? You still, again, divorce, diagnosis, job loss, mental health issues, all of those things don't stop either. When somebody posts that their pet dies, I'm like, come on, give people a break. So, number 9 is be the very nicest person you know, and start with yourself. We are so hard on ourselves, right? We expect so much of ourselves, like, oh my goodness, why am I not getting over this? Why am I not doing this right? Why am I not cleaning out those drawers if I don't feel like it? Be excessively kind to start with yourself, right? Like, we talk about how important it is to be kind to others, and absolutely, this is a time. And again, when you're let's not say stuck at home with your family, we'll say we have the opportunity to be home with our families. I've had to, again, check in to let go of the little things, to walk away when my kids start nattering at each other. I've made that very conscientious effort to really be nice. I don't know. They're probably like, yeah, right, Mom. Well, you know what? I'm trying. And then when I'm not, I just say, you know what? I'm sorry, guys. I was pretty crabby back then, and I'm sorry. I'm gonna get back on that niceness. And then I forgive myself, right? Because that's something that we often forget to do, right? Be kind to ourselves and be forgiving. We're doing the very best we can through all this. And you know what? If you didn't do your very best, do better now if you can. Like, just and figure out why, and just be gentle with yourself, and just kind of say, you know what, I totally rock. I'm actually quite awesome. Like, we don't compliment ourselves. Like, we don't say, yeah, I'm really great. We say, oh, I've gained weight. My hair looks terrible. We all have COVID hair, but we pick at our flaws, and we focus on those things. So let's focus not on all the things we're not doing, on all the things we're doing well. It's like, catch them being good. It's like your kids, catch them being good. Catch them being good. Catch yourself being good. Be the very nice person you can be, and start with you. And in all of these challenging times, we have to remember, when you've just had enough, is that this is only temporary. How long? I'm not sure, but it is only temporary. We will get through to the other side, to some new normal, different normal, and I'm going to say a better normal. That's what I'm going to hold on to. We have such tremendous opportunity, right, for good change, and that is what I am going to hold on to. And of course, number 10 is, to me, the very best medicine for grief, for connection, for everything. Make random acts of kindness, back to that kindness, part of your everyday. There's so many people that think, oh, what can I do? Oh, gosh, so many things. Actually, there are just so many things that you can do. And I've always told people this, the random acts of kindness, here's my secret. I am a do-gooder. I don't even think it's because I'm a nice person. It just makes me feel so good. It makes me feel so good. And in those grief pauses and those breaks that we need, sometimes we need to just step away from our own stuff, right? Like, you know what, my life is just too busy right now, and there's so many things going on. And so when that happens to me, like, we did these, everyone's done these rocks. There's so many little rocks. My kids and I, we painted a bunch of rocks. We just put them on the end of some people's driveways. This one lady, I was almost embarrassed. It was like we gave her $1 million. It's like she was so happy about her rock. And I just thought, wow, okay. And then, the garbage, I put a sign on our thing saying, thank you so much for picking up our garbage and recycling every day. Stay well and have a wonderful day, in a like neon neon piece of paper. I mean, there's just so many things we can do. And it is, to me, it is one of the most underused ways to navigate, to kind of take a grief break and to move through, because, you know, inadvertently, when you do something kind for someone, they feed you with love and kindness back. And I remember when I was at work, when I worked in a chemo clinic, and I don't know if you've ever worked with a manager or somebody who wasn't very nice, but anyways, this one was not. And I was so upset because she was actually, she was mean. She was very unkind in that moment. She must have had an empty bucket. I wanted to kick her bucket, but that's not nice either. But I was so upset, and I just looked at my coworker. I said, "Oh my gosh, I will be right back. I have to go pay someone a compliment." She said, did Yvonne, what did she just say? Did she say she has to go pay someone a compliment? I said, yes, because I had a choice, right? I could either leave and be very angry and go yell at someone else because someone was mean to me, or I could go out and be kind to someone and know that they would fill my bucket. So, you know, you can always find a cute little hospital volunteer who, this one had a beautiful scarf. And I just went up to her and I said, that is because it has to be sincere. That is an absolutely gorgeous scarf. I love your scarf. Well, thank you very much, dear. That is so nice to say of you to say. Thank you so much. And we had this lovely conversation. She felt better. I felt better. You know, there are so many little ways. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time to help ourselves and each other navigate through this, because by utilizing these things, we are being great examples to other people as well, right? That is the greatest thing that we can do, right? Is be a great example to others. We can't force them to do random acts of kindness. We can't force them to be kind. We can't force anyone to do anything, but we can be a wonderful example. And those are my 10 tips that have kind of helped me through. Doesn't work every moment, but let me tell you, it's really been something I've held on to. So thanks for listening. And I would just love to hear any comments, any ideas, questions, you name it. Is that good, right?
Thanks so much. So I thought that was, you did a really good job of running through and filling in all kinds of ways that people can be helpful, helping themselves and helping others. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am just, like I said, I love to connect people and learn as we go along, right? Because this is the best thing that we can do. And I actually, I meant to say also, one of the things that helps me when people are grieving is we have our grief candle here, this beautiful candle. I don't know if you can see it. And we light this when someone has had a death or they're just grieving whatever they're grieving. So we've had this, we lit this for George Floyd, and also for everyone, because whenever people are gathered, there are people someone is grieving something, right? So I honor all of you for being here, and I know everyone has their own challenges and different grief, and I like that for you as well. And someone wrote, "Where did you get the candle?" It was a present, isn't it pretty? Thank you, Liz. I guess I can, do you want me to look at the chat, or do you want me to? I always get distracted when I look at the chat.
I'm looking at it. Mostly it's words of encouragement from people, thanking you and obviously learning. I would say if people have questions, just give a wave. And if you're muted, you can either unmute or we can unmute you. So you can ask your question to Yvonne.
I would love to know anything that has helped you navigate through this time, right? Because this is, again, how I learn. And we all can learn from each other.
Hi, just a comment. It's Maina DeBetz from Calgary. And so nice to see you again, Yvonne. What I've taken on is daily gratitude.
Oh, yeah.
I really focus on I've joined a Facebook group actually, and we just write down our daily gratitude. And it could be as simple as one day after the incident down the States, I was just grateful I could breathe. It was as simple as that. And it's really shifted how I think, because what you mentioned, we have a choice. We have a choice how we react to what is happening in our life. And I think that's where we remain powerful, is when we take on that we have the choice, and even to accept the circumstances that is happening right now, even though we don't want them. And thank you so much for sharing.
Maina, would I be wrong if I said you have a book? Where are you? Where'd you go? I'm looking.
Here.
Don't I have a book back here that you wrote?
Yeah, I have a book here too that I
She
wrote.
sure
Yeah.
does. Yes, let me see. Show your book, please. It's wonderful. It's a beautiful book.
It's
Yes.
called When Death Comes Knocking Through Your Patience.
Yes.
It's
And
a learning guide for us healthcare professionals that are caring for patients that are meeting in life struggles. So thank you, Yvonne.
Well, of course, me and I connected when we exchanged books and change. And I mean, when we talk about grief and death and dying in our death-phobic, grief-phobic society, change takes many voices and many ongoing conversations. And I'm always honored. Hospice palliative care is like the greatest movement in the world, and truly, I am just always so honored to connect with organizations doing this work, because we can do this differently. We can do this differently, and I'm sure many people who are here have witnessed that, have been a part of it, know that it's a privilege to be a part of someone's dying process right to the end of life, and we have wow, we have tremendous opportunity. I mean, and like you're saying, when things happen that are just so devastating, we have to allow our grief, and we have to understand that that is a part of our healing process. And then now what, right? And yes, trying to think positive impacts that will result from our temporary. Thank you, Irene. Thank you. Yes, I am absolutely, I always tell people, please feel free to connect anytime. And we have a Facebook. I've been doing Facebook Lives, and on Friday at 4:30, I do Funsy Friday, fun in a onesie, because it's already serious enough. And I kind of lighten up, except now that it's 90 degrees some days, I just about fainted in my onesie. I'll have to find one that's lighter. But I bring heart and humor to grief, death, and dying, because it's already serious enough. And, when someone is struggling and grieving, or, in the dying process, you can make them smile or laugh, or their family. It's like this little grief break. It is just the most rewarding thing that you can just ever bring to the table. Do you have any specific ideas for teens who are grieving the death of their mother? You know what, that's very sad. And I'm sure anyone that works in this can share. Two things that I would say. Number one is listen, and just say, I don't know. I want to understand what this is like. Tell me what this is like for you. Like, I'm here. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say, but I am here, right? And actually, I often share, in the last 5.5 years of interviewing literally hundreds of people, what I heard more than anything is, in a situation such as that, a teenager whose mother died, I mean, it's just heart-wrenching. and everyone is terrified and they say, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. Right? And why would we? And the beautiful thing is that we do not need a PhD to love and support. And so just showing up is always the answer when we don't know what to do or don't know what to say, just showing up. And the thing that has made a difference for people in all these interviews, hug, text, email, call, sit silently and listen, saying, I don't know what to say, but I'm here. This is really sad. I'm struggling too, right? Again, instead of trying to be strong for them, grieve with them and just allow our humanness and allow their humanness. And I would encourage, I did a TED talk about this very subject when it's just so challenging. And I'd encourage you to watch it because I actually, one of the people when I was creating my TED talk was Andrea Warnock I connected with who helps grieving children. And I asked her if she felt that my message, it was a good message. And she said yes. And she gave me a few suggestions and I incorporated them. And I think the greatest thing that we can do, no matter what people are going through, my two greatest messages, and again, I have hashtag I just showed up. This is my bracelet because we need to show up for ourselves first, right? No matter what the situation, we need to come to the table fed and watered and ready. If we want to be able to help others, we need to check in with ourselves first. How am I doing mentally, physically, emotionally? And when that person is grieving and struggling, it doesn't matter what is causing their heart to break. Just show up. Just show up. No matter what the question, I believe with all my heart, that is always the answer.
I do see a question there asking about, do you have ideas for teams to do together to work on gratitude? So working teams, yeah.
Teams to work on gratitude. Oh my gosh, I could start spinning that. If you'd like to email me, I'd be happy to chat about that because, and actually, man, I'm glad you had mentioned it because no matter every single day of my life, I name 10 good things that I'm grateful for. 10 things that I'm grateful for. I have done that for 20 plus years. On some days when, again, I feel heartbroken and I'm really struggling, it's like, I'm grateful that I had coffee this morning. I'm grateful that I had a shower. I'm grateful that I have these earrings and the sun is shining, right? Like sometimes I'm grasping. And I think that with teams, I think it would be great to just get together and ask the team, hey, what can we do with, right? Don't you think? Like get a group of people and ask everyone for suggestions because gratitude is love and gratitude, right? Infuse every situation with love and gratitude and it's a winning combination and just showing up, the three combined, perfect. Because that will always carry you through, right? And, or if you don't, like in your self-care toolbox, if you don't have anything that you feel grateful for right now, you dig into your self-care toolbox and say, remember that wonderful time I had. And I'm so grateful that those patients were so kind and all these thank you notes that I have. And right, you can dig in there to help you. There's always, yes, gratitude to carry you through. Yeah, I think that'd be a great team thing to do. Ask everyone, okay, how can we do this? Wouldn't that be a lot easier too than trying to figure it out? Right? Absolutely. Anybody else have a story to share? Anything they want to share? Don't be shy. I used to be shy, I gave it up. Everyone's just captivated. So on my website as well, you can see all kinds of resources. And if you say follow Yvonne, I do a weekly blog, and I mean you can unsubscribe anytime. But if you follow, you will get the 10 tips and 7 takeaways that I share in all my presentations. And also, Thank you, Lise. Nice of you to just show up. See what I did there? And I also wrote out some things, how to just show up, right? How to just show up. And I mean, again, it's all just learning as we go along. And yeah, we created we have the Facebook page, and we really we're doing everything that we can to just build community, because again, it doesn't matter what is making someone's heart ache. Grief is grief, right? Grief is grief, and we don't need to judge other people's grief or how they're reacting to grief. If everyone's there, probably learn from each other and support one another, create a soft landing for ourselves and coping skills and strategies. There's just so much opportunity to move through this grieving without excessive suffering, right? And that's my differentiation. I suffered excessively. So much suffering. I now know the difference, and I choose to allow my grief, and that inadvertently eliminates my excessive suffering, right? So it's ongoing learning, right? Thanks, Colette. Yeah, she said she's glad I gave up being shy. I was. People don't even believe that. In high school, do you know that I used to take a 0 instead of public speaking? No thanks, I'm not speaking in front of 3 people. But you know what? Here's the thing. Once I decided that I was going to just show up and be my flawed, imperfect, messy, vulnerable self, I usually, in a keynote, I usually make at least one person cry. Usually it's me and then one other person. And I don't apologize ever for my tears. I thought I might cry tonight. I've had lots of tears lately. Yeah. I'll cry in the grocery store. I'll cry because I also refuse that polite conversation. You know, hi, how are you? I'm fine. Okay, if you need anything, let me know, but you're really not fine. No, that's out the window too. I'm not fine, you're gonna know. And if you're not fine, I'm gonna dig it out of you. May I, Christine, Catherine, is it okay if I share what I'd love to share to support your amazing organization?
Sure.
So I have one of our goals with Love Your Life to Death is to support amazing organizations across Canada who are being a voice for change and supporting people in grief, death, and dying, and helping us to know that we can do this differently, which obviously AHPA, did I get that right? Alberta Hospice Palliative Care Association. You have to say all that when you answer the phone. Hello, Alberta Hospice Palliative Care. Yes, I know. Anyway.
We do.
Yes, it's a lot, but I know you're doing beautiful work in supporting people. And so I have my book called Love Your Life to Death. It's $20, and we're happy to donate 50% if you choose to purchase it back to the organization, AHPCA. And we also, just before all of this COVID stuff hit, created an online program called Get Ready for Grief, How to Navigate Grief and Life's Challenges. People think I created it because of COVID, and I promise it took me a year to create. And so if anyone, you can look at the website, if anyone at any time, or share the program with other people you might think would be interested, and what they can let us know that this is where they heard about it, and we will donate 50% back to this wonderful organization. That is our way of giving back, because like I said, change takes many, many voices, many united voices. And so I thank everyone truly for being here tonight to learn. And you know, again, by sharing this, by teaching people how simple it is to just show up, just tell them, watch my TED Talk, or say, watch this TED Talk. You'll learn about just showing up. You don't even have to explain it. It's wonderful. But thank you for all that you do. I'm very grateful to your organization.
Well, thank you. We very much appreciate that. And I know for myself, just again, you read the tips, but having you describe them and your specific examples, and as you start to think about your own life and how you can apply those. And I think there's some of them are simple, yet we don't think about them so much, or even just apply them in our own life. I think that sort of checking with ourselves. I know the filling your life with happy. I love the declutter, the spring clean. Like, it's not just the physical cleaning, it's taking a look at mental, emotional, spiritual. I think that's just such a great point. And I think, especially for right now, the point about being informed and not obsessed, I think, is one that is so important, because there was initially so much information, and it's just like information overload. And it's kind of like, what do I need to know today? What's too much? What do I need to know to be happy, to function, to live my life, to still have the meaningfulness in my life, and what is just kind of clutter. And I don't necessarily need that. And that's causing more grief than it is alleviating anything. So thank you so much, because I've really enjoyed your talk. I know that we were just very thrilled that you could be involved with our organization, especially moving things from in person, where we're used to having those connections and those opportunities to network and to meet, and particularly be into the rural parts of Alberta. And just really glad that you could be involved now in the virtual roadshow.
Well, thank you so much. And, you know, as you said, of course, it's so wonderful to be together in person. Imagine if this would have happened, you know, whatever, 20 plus years ago before Zoom, we wouldn't even be able to connect. So as much as I, you know, want to be in person, and I'm virtually hugging everyone, and I want to do that in person, I still remain grateful. I mean, I can see all these wonderful faces, and we're so fortunate to be able to connect this way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are. All right. Well, I have a call to action. Is this the time, or should I wait? Is there anything?
No, it's great. Go for it.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you again. And I want you to remember that if you want to be able to just show up for others, you must just show up for yourself first. And I would encourage you to think of 3 more ways that maybe you could just show up for yourself a little bit, just a little bit more. And you know, if you're really not great at that whole showing up for yourself, just lean into it. Maybe one thing. But remember that your happiness matters. Your happiness matters. So just show up for yourself first. And if you want to be able to just show up for others, and remember that it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, and you can't fix it, the magic answer is always just show up. But I encourage you to plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party. Thank you.
Great.